What do you think of when you think of an organization? Lots of things may come to mind. Naturally, there are individual members of an organization. Organizations are made up of people, after all. There are rank and file, line level workers, and those who manage them. There is also some kind of structure or hierarchy or chain of command. There are different specialties, job types, positions, or roles. Different people do different things, serve different functions. There are systems in place that govern how the organization operates, such as ways to obtain and disseminate information, both internally, from top down to bottom up and across different units, and externally, to and from others outside the organization. And organizations have some type of purpose. There's some reason they exist. So let's start there. The purpose of an organization is meeting some type of needs, some type of demand, some type of problem or issue that needs to be addressed. This is particularly relevant for criminal justice organizations. This is the mission of the organization, its overall general purpose, its very reason for even existing. Vision is how goals are accomplished. Vision is very broad, looking at the big picture. Essentially, how is the organizational mission going to be accomplished? Values are priorities. They are going to differ depending on the organization's mission. Priorities could include controlling crime, rehabilitating offenders, maintaining order, safety, and security, ensuring individual rights are upheld. Different organizations are going to focus on different values and put different levels of importance on these different values depending on their specific mission and vision. Objectives, then, are specific strategic goals for how the mission will be carried out. These strategic goals can be formal or informal, but the idea is that objectives permeate throughout the organization so every member is working toward meeting them. The key to objectives is they're more concrete and achievable. They can be measured. There's something we can look at to say, this is specifically what your organization is doing. So while mission and vision are more general, big picture guidelines, objectives are more refined and measurable. We can determine whether or not they're being achieved. Next, organizations have some type of structure. When we think of organizational structure, the hierarchical or pyramid model is typically what first comes to mind. A formal bureaucratic structure with a top-down authority, chain of command, and refined rules, policies, and procedures. But it's certainly not the only model. There are many others. Another entirely different structure is more decentralized and flattened, rather than vertical like a pyramid, with decision-making authority spread out, allowing individual line-level workers to make more autonomous decisions. We can contrast the two when looking at a typical police versus probation agency, where police tend to be more formal and centralized, while probations tend to be more decentralized and informal. This is certainly not universal, of course, as the flat and decentralized model is also a central feature of the community policing model, for instance. But in general, police and probation have predominantly been organized according to these two contrasting structures. Future videos will examine these different models in far greater depth. Organizations also have systems. This is what a typical organizational system looks like. Models like this are frequently used when evaluating policies and programs. It considers the organizational arrangements, inputs, processes, outputs, outcomes, and feedback. All of these are central to how organizations function. But what does it all actually mean? Organizational arrangements are the characteristics of the organization. How the organization is structured, we just touched on this. Its size, the number of people employed, how independently the organization operates from other outside influences or authorities. Are there other agencies that oversee them? How much influence does a mayor, governor, or other governing body have over them? How involved are citizens in decision-making, and so forth. It's the framework and environment that organizations operate in. Inputs are anything used to accomplish the organization's goals. Anything that goes into the organization, whether it be money, resources, personnel, technology, these are all inputs. Processes and activities are how inputs are used. These are formalized ways of doing things to accomplish the organization's goals. For police, this could include going out on patrol, answering calls for service, investigating reported crime incidents, processing evidence, writing reports, responding to citizen complaints, interacting with other agencies. All of these are activities and processes that organizations undertake to achieve their mission. Outputs are specific tangible products produced by the organization. So for example, for police, arrests, citations, clearances. For courts, case proceedings, convictions, sentences. For probation, parole, pre-sentence investigations, case reports, violations. For corrections, prisoner confinements, safety measures, rehabilitation reports. All of these are examples of different outputs. This is what the organization has to demonstrate that this is what we have to show for our efforts. Then there are outcomes. This is often confused with outputs. Outputs center on meeting specific objectives. Recall those are concrete, tangible, measurable. While outcomes connect back to the big picture mission or vision. Was crime and victimization reduced? Was recidivism or reoffending reduced? Were dangerous individuals kept off the streets? Do citizens feel safer? How satisfied are they with the services provided? And did people who needed help get the help that they needed? So then finally there's feedback, which is the information collected from both inside the organization and out on how well the organization is performing. This is everything needed to determine, okay, is the organization actually fulfilling its goals? Is it operating the way it is supposed to, the way it was intended? Organizations regularly get feedback from all over the place, both externally, from communities, politicians, non-government organizations like nonprofits and businesses, from victims and offenders, along with their families and friends. These are all external sources of feedback. Then there's internal feedback. This is feedback received from those in the organization, from police officers, correctional officers, prosecutors, judges, probation and parole officers, and other essential staff like court clerks, doctors, secretaries, maintenance personnel. All this feedback is valuable and informs how well the system is functioning. So then management is a process of dealing with all this feedback, sorting through it, making sense of it, and determining how to use it to better the organization, to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, being as effective and efficient as possible, achieving their mission. Or to put it more concisely, it's the ongoing process of getting things done through a variety of people with the least amount of effort, expense, and waste, ultimately resulting in the achievement of organizational goals. This is necessary for any organization that wants to function well, and certainly criminal justice organizations are no exception. Management encompasses many responsibilities. Defining goals, selecting qualified individuals to meet those goals, establishing operational guidelines, directing individual and group efforts, adhering to existing laws, rules, and regulations, maintaining effective communication channels, providing a motivating environment for success, short and long-term planning, executing policies, resolving conflicts, assessing employee and organizational performance, maintaining effective public relations, protecting the health, safety, and welfare of employees, and providing effective leadership, just to name a few. This brings us then to leadership, another central feature of organizations. When you think of a leader, someone with a formal position of authority typically comes to mind first. A supervisor, a manager, an administrator. With that, let's make a distinction among different types of management positions. An administrator is a chief executive, somebody who focuses on the overall organization, its mission, acquiring and using resources, and agency relationships with external organizations and groups. A manager is at a more intermediate level. They're responsible for carrying out the policies and directives of upper-level administrators, as well as supervising subordinate managers and employees. And a supervisor is typically somebody who's working in the field directing line-level workers and carrying out their duties and responsibilities. So, for example, in a typical police organization, the chief would be the administrator, captains and lieutenants are managers, and sergeants are supervisors. Now, manager is often used as a blanket overarching term that encompasses all of these positions as a shorthand, and management speaks to the overall process, but the distinction is still useful to note. So these are formal positions of authority. But in practice, just because a person is in a position of authority doesn't mean they're an effective leader. They may not be very good at inspiring and motivating the people they're working with to meet their mission, to reach their objectives. And in practice, there may be others who have a leadership role as well on a more informal basis because of their expertise, or how well they're respected, or the people they know, who they're connected with. And those looked to for leadership can change depending on the situation and what the specific problem or challenge is that is being faced. Future videos will put the spotlight on leadership, so I'm only touching on it here, but it is an essential component not to be overlooked. Leadership can make or break an organization. So that does it for now. Is this a helpful framework for thinking about organizations and management? Does this apply differently to different types of criminal justice organizations, police, courts, or corrections? How might these different common features of organizations differ for public organizations like criminal justice or for private organizations like businesses or nonprofits? What are some of the different challenges for managing public versus private organizations? Comment below and let me know. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Thank you for watching, see you next time, and have a good one.